Welcome to our program today, Ms. Yuko Tsujita.
Hello.
To begin with, Ms. Tsujita, on June 1st of this year, the royal family shootings occurred in Nepal. Following the massacre, the public is being told that the situation is tense. To the best of your knowledge, what is the reality of the current situation?
Well, the constitutional monarchy was in crisis soon after the royal massacre. The people of Nepal were in shock and deep sorrow. At the same time, people were not ready to believe the media reports and witness accounts, which blamed Prince Dipendra. Eventually, there were violent protests against the new king. A curfew was imposed in the capital and neighboring cities. A lot of people feared that there might be a fresh outbreak of violence and protest in the capital after the investigation committee came out with a report on the royal massacre. However, when it was made public on 14th June, and as expected, blamed the Red Prince Dipendra, the capital remained calm even as armed police personnel continued to patrol the streets. Life in the capital is already back to normal. In politics, Prime Minister Gitra Prasad Koirala resigned last month. Opposition parties have demanded his resignation for over several months because of a possible involvement in the corruption of the Royal Nepalese Airlines aircraft lease, as well as in effective dealing with the Nepal Communist Party, the Maoists. In parliamentary sessions held in February, March, and April, on no single day could the session be completed because of the opposition demands. Sheikh Bahadur Deva was appointed as the new prime minister in July. There is a little hope of changing the situation, in particular of finding a way of solving the problem of Maoist terrorism.
Ms. Tsujita, what is the main reason for the high level of tension in Nepal? Could you explain both political and economic factors affecting the country right now?
Firstly, I would like to point to political instability and Maoist terrorism as political factors and poverty as an economic factor. During the last 11 years, since democratization in 1990, there have been 3 general elections and 10 different cabinets. I suppose the characteristics of politics during the 1990s are the short lives of each cabinet and the instability of politics due to internal fightings in the main political parties and corruption. Although this process might be the struggle of making democracy work, the people have been disappointed with democratic politics, as they expected a lot from it. In the meantime, political instability and lack of governmental attention created a climate conducive to the growth of Maoist insurgency. The Nepal Communist Party Maoist started the terrorism in the western part of the country in February 1996. As their terrorism became more radical, the government tried to hold a dialogue with the Maoists, which in fact took place in November 2000. However, it didn't result in resolving the problem. The government introduced an armed police force and strengthened regional government to maintain law and order. Moreover, new public security rules gave local governors to issue detention and internment. In addition, the Royal Nepali Army was mobilized against the Maoists in rural districts to rescue 70 kidnapped police personnel recently. Secondly, Nepal is a very underdeveloped country. What it's worth, the problem of poverty has not been solved and inequality has already increased since democratization. In short, elected politicians were expected to have found solutions to the problems of poverty and inequality, which in fact has not happened.
The new king, Gyanendra, gave his first address to the parliament on June 29th, in which he said that in order to protect democracy, the political system, and national security, he would strengthen and mobilize forces to stop guerrilla terrorism. A month has passed since then. Now it's summer in Nepal, the peak season for foreign tourists and mountaineers. Ms. Tsujita, has the situation stabilized at all?
As I have already mentioned, there were protests in the capital after the royal massacre. Furthermore, the Maoists have expanded their activities in the capital. for example by leaving bombs in a bazaar, a temple, or other public places, or even outside the official residence of the Chief Justice. However, in general, people in the capital are carrying on with their normal lives, even though armed police personnel are patrolling the capital and neighboring cities by day and night. On the other hand, in some districts in the Middle Western region, Maoists have established a so-called people's government, which powers the administrative structure. Maoist insurgencies often happen at night. Therefore, if you go to Nepal, it's best to keep up with the latest local information before and during your visit.
Ms. Sujita, regarding foreign relations with Nepal's neighbors, how have the royal family shootings altered relations with India and Pakistan?
After the royal massacre, no major issues have arisen between Nepal and India and Nepal and Pakistan, except for the temporary closure of the boundary between Nepal and India and the recent decision by the Indian government to deploy a paramilitary force along the Nepal-India border to control cross-border crimes. Compared with the year 2000, which saw anti-India feelings being expressed on different occasions, this year is going smoothly in terms of the relationship with their big brother neighbor. Anyway, although there are disputes over the boundary, investment, trade, and water management, I think a major bilateral issue with India will be the review of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship ratified in 1950. From a Nepali point of view, this treaty is regarded as being unequal in terms of economic activities, living, property, travel, and so on. Once upon a time, India would never have thought of reviewing the treaty, but they have now agreed to do so later this year. With reference to the relationship with Pakistan, this is often a problem through India's doubts over Pakistan. Nepal is next to a big brother, India, which has great political, economic, and diplomatic influence. India insists that Nepal, especially in the border areas, has become a hotspot of activities of the Pakistan inter-service intelligence. This doubt was further strengthened by the Indian Airlines hijacking incident when Kashmiri Muslims were leaving Kathmandu for New Delhi at the end of 1999, as well as the activities of Pakistani diplomats in Kathmandu in recent years.
Nepal shares a border with the country of Bhutan. Since 1990, ethnic Nepalese from Bhutan have been pouring across the border into Nepal. According to UN statistics, roughly 100,000 refugees from Bhutan are currently living in Nepal. How is the political situation in Nepal influencing its relationship with Bhutan?
In my opinion, as long as the constitutional monarchy continues in Nepal, the Kingdom of Bhutan will not be affected by any political turmoil in Nepal. As far as the Bhutanese refugees are concerned, Bhutanese of Nepali origin migrated mainly from the southern part of Bhutan to the eastern part of Nepal. The reason is that Bhutan adopted a pure Bhutanese policy. The democratic movement has been prohibited in Bhutan. In order to repatriate the refugees, both countries started ministerial level talks in October 1993. It took them 10 meetings in 7 years to reach the agreement of the refugees verification process because Bhutan regarded the problem as a domestic political affair, while Nepal wanted Nepali origin Bhutanese to improve their social status. After many twists and turns, both countries finally agreed the verification process at the 10th ministerial meetings held in December 2000. The agreement is to verify that refugees who are less than 25 years old are based on the nuclear family, and those who are more than 25 years old are considered as individuals. At the end of March this year, the joint verification team, which consisted of representatives from both countries, started to verify the refugees in 7 different refugee camps. It is reported that the joint team completed verifying approximately 3,500 refugees by the end of June. However, they found that it took longer than expected due to the verification verification being done by only one team, the team's lack of experience, and so on. Therefore, Nepal wants to hold ministerial talks to bring in more than one verification team to speed up the verification process, and also from Nepal's point of view, to ask Bhutan to stop the resettlement of northern Bhutanese in South Bhutan. At the end of the day, the slower the verification process, the heavier Nepal's economic and political burden will be.
Finally, Ms. Tsujita, from this point on, how do you expect the situation in Nepal will progress?
In the short run, it all depends on the new Prime Minister Sheikh Bahadur Deva, who was appointed recently. He announced a ceasefire and the Maoists responded positively. Consequently, this raises the possibility of reconvening the dialogue between the government and Maoists. However, if the Prime Minister steers the ship of state in the wrong direction, the Maoists might change their minds. In the long run, there might be a question about constitutional monarchy. The people of Nepal seem to have accepted King Gyanendra, at least for the time being. Perhaps the citizens have digested the explanation in the official report on the royal massacre and have shown patience and restraint. I think, however, that they are hiding suspicion and distraction in their minds. Up to now, the king has supported the multi-party democratic system and has not taken strong measures against the Maoists. If the king formally decided to send the Royal Nepalese Army to fight the Maoists, Nepal would be unstable again. Moreover, it is uncertain if people are ready to accept his extremely unpopular son, Parth Saha, as Prince of Nepal. His possible official appointment in the future might cause an outbreak of protest against the king and the monarchy.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Ms. Tsujita.
Thank you very much.